In the heart of the Wild West, where the sun blazed fiercely over the arid plains and the air was thick with dust, a small town named Silver Creek bustled with life. The townsfolk moved with purpose, their voices mingling with the sounds of horses' hooves clattering on the wooden streets. Among them was Dr. Alice McAllister, a respected physician known for her gentle touch and fierce dedication to her patients. Dr. McAllister was the type of woman who could stitch up a gunshot wound just as easily as she could bring a newborn into the world. Though fiercely independent, she felt a restlessness in her soul, a yearning for something beyond the confines of her little clinic. Little did she know that restlessness was about to be awakened. One scorching afternoon, Alice received word that a cowboy named Jake Malone had been injured during a skirmish far beyond the town's borders. Jake was a man everyone in Silver Creek spoke of in hushed tones. Tall and rugged, with piercing blue eyes and a reputation for being both charming and dangerous, he was a figure of local legend. Many feared him, but Alice had never met him. Curiosity piqued. She gathered her medical supplies and set off for the nearby ranch where Jake was recovering. When she arrived, the ranch was quieter than she expected. A chilling atmosphere lingered, the shadows stretching long across the dusty ground. As she stepped through the door, Alice was greeted by the sight of Jake propped up against a stack of hay bales, his broad shoulders barely able to contain his lean physique. A fresh bandage wrapped around his arm, and the remnants of pain flickered in his eyes as he looked up at her. "Who are you?" he rasped, his voice a low rumble that sent a strange thrill through her. "I'm Dr. Alice McAllister," she answered, keeping her tone steady, despite the butterflies dancing in her stomach. "I'm here to check on your injuries." He smirked, a playful glint in his eyes. "I don't need a doctor, just some whiskey and a good night's sleep." Alice felt a spark of anger mix with her intrigue. "You may be tough, Mr. Malone, but you still need care." As she worked to clean and dress his wounds, a surprising connection began to form. Jake's rough exterior slowly softened under her gentle touch. He captivated her with stories of the vast plains and the adventures he'd had, painting a vivid picture of a life that felt so far removed from her own. Each laugh they shared broke down the walls that surrounded their hearts, and soon, a spark of attraction ignited between them. Days turned into weeks, and Alice found herself returning to the ranch more often. Each visit breathed new life into their connection. The townsfolk noticed her frequent absences during the day and whispered rumors about the doctor and the cowboy. There were those who warned her against a man like Jake, citing not only his dangerous reputation, but his tendency to keep his heart locked tightly away. But Alice remained undeterred. She saw something deeper in Jake, an honest man burdened by his past, looking for redemption. The mixing of their worlds seemed impossible, igniting both fear and excitement in her heart. Was she ready to face the judgment of the town? One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, Jake invited Alice to watch the sunset from the ridge overlooking the ranch. The beauty of the scene mirrored the budding love in Alice's heart, and they shared stories as the stars began to sprinkle the night sky. But when their eyes met, something shifted. Alice felt the weight of their worlds crashing together, pulling her between her duties as a doctor and her emotions for the rugged cowboy standing beside her. "What do you really see when you look at me?" Jake asked, his voice low and serious. "I see a man with a good heart," Alice replied, uncertain of how to voice the depth of her feelings. "I'm not the man everyone thinks I am, Alice," he said, his eyes reflecting a vulnerability she hadn't expected. "I've done things I'm not proud of." Alice took a deep breath, her heart racing. "We all have our pasts, Jake. What matters is who we choose to be now." But that choice was not as simple as it seemed. As Alice poured her heart into Jake, the town's shadows loomed larger. Whispers grew louder, rumors morphed into accusations, spreading through Silver Creek like wildfire. The town council convened, and the townsfolk gathered to discuss whether Alice should be stripped of her license for consorting with a man of ill repute. The night of the council meeting arrived with a storm brewing in the distance. Alice knew she had to make a stand. With her heart pounding, she took a seat among the townspeople. As the murmurs faded, she faced them unflinchingly. "I have dedicated my life to this town," Alice began, her voice steady. "Every day I make decisions that impact the lives of my patients. Love is not a crime, Jake may have a past, but everyone deserves a chance at redemption. Her words hung in the air, stirring something deep within the townsfolk. As she spoke, she noticed Jake standing at the entrance, his presence providing her with undeniable strength. Yet some in the crowd remained unmoved, fueled by fear and prejudice. In that moment, Alice realized that it wouldn't be easy to change their minds. But she knew she wouldn't give up on Jake or what they had begun. When the meeting adjourned, she sought out Jake, her heart in turmoil. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern etched on his handsome face. "No, but I will be. Together we can fight this, Jake," she replied, her determination pushing through the doubt. As they stood together, a storm began to roll in, thunder rumbling ominously in the distance. Jake took Alice's hands in his, a warmth spreading between them that felt invincible against the tempest outside. "I won't let you face this alone," he promised. "You've shown me kindness when others turned away. I'll do whatever it takes to prove to them the man I want to be." With one another's support, they faced the storm, both the literal and the metaphorical that loomed on the horizon. Love blossomed against all odds, defying the expectations of the town and the weight of their pasts. As lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating their path forward, Alice and Jake prepared to confront the challenges ahead, knowing that their love had the power to change not just their fates, but the very heart of Silver Creek itself. Through trials and tribulations, they would carve their place in a world that demanded they conform, but their bond would illuminate the darkness around them, leading them toward a future where acceptance reigned and love endured. As the storm clouds gathered overhead, Alice and Jake stood resolute, ready to face whatever challenge awaited them. The thunder rumbled like the collective heartbeat of Silver Creek, matching the rhythm of their growing determination. The town hall meeting had stirred something deeper in Alice, a drive not just to defend her love for Jake, but to challenge the very ideals that bound the town. The next morning she awoke with resolve. She would not be silenced, nor would she allow the townsfolk to dictate who she could bond with. She slipped out of bed before dawn, her mind racing with plans. She arrived at the clinic, sunlight filtering through the windows. Alice couldn't help but think of how her practice had been a safe haven for so many. She could turn it into a place of discussion, a forum to educate the townsfolk about fear and acceptance. If she could help them see Jake for the man he was, perhaps the tide could turn. Over the next few days, Alice sent out invitations across Silver Creek, inviting townspeople for an open talk about misconceptions, fear, and the power of change. She turned her clinic into a makeshift gathering place, decorating the walls with her medical certificates and stories of the patients she had helped, illustrating her commitment to the community. On the day of the meeting, a palpable energy filled the air. The clinic buzzed with murmurs and laughter as townsfolk filed in, some with curiosity, others with skepticism. Jake arrived, his presence commanding yet softened by the love he had for Alice. He could sense the tension, but sensed hope in the air too. As the clock struck 6, Alice stood at the front of the room, hands clasped tightly around a stack of notes. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice a steady beacon. "I know that there are many misconceptions about Jake, about us, but I believe that fear can often cloud our judgment." She looked over the crowd, seeing familiar faces, neighbors, friends, all watching with a mix of intrigue and apprehension. "This meeting is a chance for us to talk openly, to share our fears, and seek understanding." Jake stood beside her, feeling his heart race as he prepared to speak, overshadowed by the weight of the moment. "I know my past speaks louder than my words. I come from a life where the only options were to fight or flee. But what you need to know is that I want to be better," he said, his voice raw but full of sincerity. "I am not asking for your acceptance. I'm asking for a chance to show you who I am now." A ripple of surprise rolled through the crowd. Alice seized the moment. Jake has faced hardship like many of us have, but he's also shown kindness, loyalty, and courage. The misconceptions that surround him, these shadows born of fear, can only be illuminated through understanding and connection. One of the local ranchers, a burly man named Hank, stood up, arms crossed. "It's not just your past, Jake. We're scared of what men like you can do. You've been a source of trouble." Jake nodded in acknowledgement. "I understand that fear, But I'm here to protect not just myself, but this community. When I look at Alice, I see someone who fights for life every day. She's chosen me. That doesn't mean I'll bring danger. It means I'll fight to prove every bad story wrong." Alice added, "We live in a world where understanding is often overshadowed by fear. Imagine if we could come together instead, creating an environment where everyone, even someone with a past, can find redemption and support." Jake glanced around the room, gauging the reactions. Some people appeared uneasy, clinging to their preconceived notions, but others were visibly softening, eyes warming, expressions shifting from suspicion to curiosity. As the discussion flowed, villagers began to share their own fears and experiences. One woman spoke of losing a loved one to violence and the anger that lingered in her heart. Another man revealed how he had struggled with alcoholism, fearing the judgment of others despite his desire to change. Each story built a tapestry of shared humanity, gradually weaving Jake into the fabric of the community. By the end of the meeting, the mood had transformed. People who had arrived with tight fists and hardened hearts found themselves engaged in a heartfelt dialogue. When the session concluded, applause erupted unexpectedly, muted but genuine, the sound of hope beginning to flourish. For the first time, Alice felt that Silver Creek might just have a chance to evolve. As people began to leave, many approached Jake and Alice, expressing gratitude for their openness. Though challenges remained for the first time, conversations ignited compassion instead of fear. Days passed, and as a new understanding blossomed in Silver Creek, Jake and Alice found their connection deepening. They worked side by side, whether mending a fence at the ranch or tending to the sick in the clinic. With every challenge they faced together, their love grew stronger, fortified by the acceptance they were striving to achieve in the town. But society often demands scrutiny. While many started to embrace Jake, there were still those who held on to their grudges. One evening, as the sun set in hues of gold and crimson, they stumbled upon a group of men at the local saloon who had been gossiping, eerily whispering their disbelief of the couple's bond. Finding courage, Jake knew he had to confront them. "Why do you sit here spreading rumors when you could be working to build this community?" Jake challenged, a mix of anger and determination rising. The men looked at him, their faces hardened with disbelief. One of them, a man named Bill, sneered, "You think you can change Malone? You're just a wild sinner wearing a cloak of charm." Alice stepped forward, pushing back her fear. "And you all are hiding behind judgment. Why not offer compassion instead?" Bill laughed mockingly. "Compassion won't change the leopard's spots." Jake took a deep breath, fighting to maintain his composure. "I'm not here for your acceptance. I'm here for Alice, for a future we're building together. Whether you like it or not, I will prove I'm worthy." As the atmosphere grew tense, Alice placed a hand on Jake's arm, grounding him. Her strength inspired him. With a hardened resolve, she declared, "Our love isn't up for debate. It's real and it's powerful enough to change hearts, even yours." The night wore on, and while the men may not have left convinced of his worth, Jake felt empowered, no longer defined by the past. In the days that followed, the whispers became less frequent, and hope began to flourish within those stubborn hearts. As seasons changed, a warmth enveloped Silver Creek. It slowly transformed into a community of acceptance, resilience, and love, able to look past their fears and judgments. Jake and Alice faced every challenge together, hand in hand. They became a symbol of change, teaching the town that love knows no bounds, that redemption is possible, and that kindness, when combined with courage, can light even the darkest paths. With time, Silver Creek not only accepted Jake, but celebrated him as a part of their vibrant tapestry. The stormy sky transformed into clear horizons, and love flourished under the vast expanse of stars, a testament to their journey, proving that even the toughest hearts can be softened by compassion and understanding. The seasons turned, and with each passing day the bond between Alice and Jake grew deeper. Their love became a core thread in the fabric of Silver Creek, demonstrating how trust could blossom in even the most unlikely hearts. No longer just the town doctor and the feared cowboy, they became a united front, challenging the norms of their surroundings. One bright spring morning, as wildflowers painted the hillsides in vibrant colors, Alice received an unexpected visitor at the clinic. It was Mrs. Thompson, an elderly woman who had been a staunch opponent of Jake's acceptance. Alice braced herself, wondering if this was another confrontation. "Alice, Mrs. Thompson began, her voice shaky but earnest. "I've come to see you. I've heard the town talk, and I wanted to know if it's true." Alice's heart raced. "What have you heard, Mrs. Thompson?" "That you and Jake are together, that you've grown close," she said, casting her gaze downward. "I wanted to come and say that I've been wrong." The weight of Mrs. Thompson's admission hung in the air. Alice was taken aback. She had not expected such honesty from the woman who had once been so accusatory. "It's okay," Alice began gently. "I know many are still learning to accept everything." Mrs. Thompson sighed, her weathered face softening. "I've seen you both together, how you care for each other. I was blinded by fear. I lost a son long ago in a brawl with men like him." Tears glistened in her eyes. "But I see now that he is different. He's been good for you, hasn't he?" "Yes," Alice replied, feeling tears of her own. "He has shown me kindness, bravery, and a way to truly live." "Mrs." Thompson nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. "I've thought about what you said in that meeting. The idea that fear can lead us to misunderstand. I never wanted to feel the way I did. It just happened." Alice stepped closer. "It's not too late. We can change how we view this town, how we view each other." And just like that, a glimmer of hope sparkled within the depths of Silver Creek. Mrs. Thompson, now an ally rather than an adversary, committed herself to helping bridge the gap between the townsfolk and the couple. Together, they planned a festival to celebrate the town's newfound understanding, promoting unity and acceptance. As the day of the festival approached, the excitement was palpable. Banners adorned the streets and families began to gather, sharing food, laughter, and stories. The atmosphere was festive, blending diverse cultures and showcasing the strengths of those who had felt marginalized. Alice felt a swell of pride watching the townspeople connect, forging friendships that transcended old animosities. Among the festivities, Jake approached Alice, his eyes shining. "I've got a surprise for you," he said, pulling her aside. "What is it?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. He led her to the center of the town square, where a beautiful oak tree had been adorned with ribbons and flowers. "This is for you," he whispered, gesturing to a small wooden plaque nailed to the tree, engraved with the words, "Together we rise." Tears sprang to Alice's eyes. "Jake, this is beautiful. Simple. But it reminds us, of how far we've come," he said, pulling her close. "And it symbolizes all that we can achieve together." The celebration continued, and the townsfolk shared their own stories of growth and change. Some spoke of their past mistakes, others of newfound friendships, but all echoed a similar sentiment. This was a community that could learn and grow stronger together. As dusk fell, the air became thick with anticipation. A local musician struck up a tune, and soon couples began to dance beneath the starlit sky. Jake pulled Alice close, wrapping his arms around her waist, guiding her in rhythm with the soft melodies. "You make me feel alive," he murmured, their foreheads touching. "And you make me feel brave," she replied, her heart swelling with love. Just then, Hank, the rancher who had once opposed Jake, stepped forward. "I want to apologize," he called out. "I can't change what I said before, but I want you to know that I'm proud to stand with you two tonight. You've shown us what it means to be a community." Applause erupted, and the spirit of acceptance hung thick in the air. With each step, every turn on the dance floor, Alice and Jake felt the shift, a collective movement towards a future that embraced diversity and celebrated love in all its forms. As the festival came to a close, Alice and Jake stood hand in hand, looking out at the families laughing, dancing, and celebrating. The bonds of their community had grown, forged through understanding and shared experiences. "Look at this," Jake said, awe evident in his voice. "This is what we fought for." Alice smiled, a sense of peace washing over her. "And this is just the beginning, Jake. We'll keep challenging the norms, showing Silver Creek that love can change everything." Together, they looked towards the horizon, where the sun dipped below the landscape, signaling the end of one day and the promise of many more to come. They had found light in the darkest of places, a love that became a flame to guide those around them, illuminating the power of unity and compassion in the wild, untamed beauty of the West. In that moment, Alice understood that love had the power to break down walls and build bridges, to turn fear into understanding. And with Jake by her side, She knew they would face whatever challenges lay ahead together.